and daddy, my dear husband, Aaron Gatson, and the people of Dominica. We did it! We did it! We did it!
Our guest this week could not have had a better year. Gold at the World Indoor Championships in March in Glasgow, and capping off a fantastic season with Olympic gold in Paris. She's just returned from a week of celebrations in her home country, and today we are honored to have with us the Thea LaFond, the Gatson of Dominica. I'm Leighton Levy, and of course, with me is the great singer D Major. Welcome to another episode of Out the Blocks on our SportsMax platforms. If you haven't already done so, please subscribe, like, and share our content. And of course, we get straight into it. Thea, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you so
Welcome.
much for having me. I'm so excited to be here today.
It's always a pleasure having you. First thing I'll have to ask you, the journalist in me is asking, what is wrong? We saw you with a brace. We saw you with crutches. I know you told me earlier that you would have shut down your season, but you didn't tell me why. Can you tell me why now?
Yeah. So it's a fair question. So if you tracked me during the season, you realize that there was tape on my knee through the entire outdoor season. What happened was that we found a small fracture in the cartilage of my knee back in honestly March, and I solidified it really found it. MRI scans confirmed it in May, and so it was either fix it in the season and risk the Olympics, or I fix it as soon as I'm done with the Olympics. And so we did an MRI scan again after the Olympics, 2 days after I competed at finals. We were like, we'd rather just fix it and not risk anything getting worse before next season. So they went in there and they smoothed out my cartilage for me and put in some healthy cells to help it heal. But I'll be back for indoor season, so it's fine. I'm just on crutches for 6 weeks. So I've got 2.5 more weeks left on crutches.
Okay, fair enough. But let's start with the trip back home. I mean, we're going to work our way backwards towards the Olympics. But let me start with the trip home, because that seemed to have been a very special occasion in so many different ways. What was that like for you, the experience of going home Olympic champion?
I don't think I could have even fathomed how much this medal meant to my people. Touching ground and seeing men and women alike, like grown people, big people tearing up, seeing the little people on the side of the road with the motorcades, waving their little flags. And at some point, Dominica is quite tropical. We got downpour halfway through the motorcade, and I'm thinking, oh, well, people are going to go inside. They're not going to have the children out. Boy, was I wrong. They went in, got umbrellas, and came right back out. And they were there. They estimated that the motorcade was going to take us maybe 2 or 3 hours. It took us 6 hours to get through because of how many people were filling the streets. I've never seen Dominica so united. For a small nation, we tend to be very politically divided, but we were all just united under the flag. I think it was just surreal. And then to get the love and support from my government, that shows that they appreciate the gift of sport and what it does, for a country and what it can do for a country. To extend the courtesy to my husband, him getting a diplomatic passport also. I'm now an ambassador of international
Congratulations,
sports.
yes.
Thank you for Dominica. And, we are a little richer, too. So, shout out to the Prime Minister of Dominica. We have land, we have money, we have title. It's been so kind, because they didn't have to do that, They didn't have to, but they went above and beyond and really showed out. But I think the greatest feeling was watching how proud my people were. And that's all I really ever aim to do, is just to make us look good and to ensure that Dominica is filled with pride. So mission accomplished. It was so special.
Right. Congrats again, Thea, in order, wow, well deserved. There's a part of your story, though, that I'd like you to share with us or expound on with the fans. You had to construct a makeshift runway and sandpit at some point, right? In your training, yes?
Yeah.
I'd really love to hear about that. Like your feeling at that moment. Were you feeling kind of defeated and like, yo, this is not working? Or were you fully, encouraged and determined to just get things done?
So, I've got to give a major chunk of the kudos to my husband, Aaron. That man,
Yes.
also being my coach, has never failed to find a way to help us get better and to help us succeed.
Yeah.
So before we even had that runway, we used to practice in a high school hallway with
Yeah.
just a rollout piece of track.
Right. Yes.
And just
Wow.
some mats at the end because maybe it was too cold to be outside,
Uh-huh.
and we made it work. And then we found a facility that had part track in it, and they allowed us to build a runway. And so Aaron and his best friend, Mohammed
Yeah.
Halim, who actually competed for U.S. Virgin Islands in triple jump, those two together built by hand. They
Wow.
built a raised runway for me, essentially.
Yes.
And I watched them order the wood. I watched them hammer and nail, put it together. They got the blueprints from a pole vaulter, I believe, online. Aaron just contacted them on Instagram.
Yes.
And they made it happen. And then we switched venues to a cricket facility in last November.
Oh.
And we took apart the entire runway because it's like almost like puzzle pieces that slide together.
Yes.
Like moved it in trucks. And we did this by hand, mind you, like manpower,
Wow.
called in people to help us move that.
Yeah.
And the worst part was moving 7 tons of sand.
Crazy. By hand.
Whoa.
Shoveling them into bags and hauling them onto trucks.
Wow.
And that's how we did it. And I don't think it was ever a defeat. It was just like, we want to be successful. This is what it'll take to be successful.
Right.
So that's just what has to be done. There hasn't been a lot of complaining or whining. It's just been, a relentless pursuit for excellence.
Right. Your story is extremely inspiring, Thea. I'd like to know, distance-wise this season, did you accomplish what you originally set out to do?
Honestly, no. No, and people are surprised to hear that. But, the plan was 15 meters outdoor, 15 meters indoor, 1525 outdoor.
Okay.
And while 1502 was a phenomenal, outcome outdoor season, I actually felt like I rushed my last phase a bit and I gave up quite some time, quite some distance, excuse me. But it was also the weather was kind of working against us in Paris. It started to downpour. It was really hard to stay warm at that point.
Right.
So the indoor goal was met, the outdoor not so much.
But you are the Olympic champion there, so it doesn't matter, I guess.
Yeah. See, I wanted to ask you, as an athlete, there are certain goals that you set for yourself. You're the world indoor champion.
Yeah.
You're the Olympic champion. How do you top 2024?
Oh my God. Well, I'm hoping that it starts with getting this knee right, and so that I'm in less discomfort next season, because I was definitely in discomfort this season. But I think it's just like enjoying it, like just really enjoying the sport. I think 2024, I really had fun with my sport, and I don't think I've had this much fun in a really long time. Track and field is a very, very tough discipline.
Yep.
And if you followed my trajectory through the last few years, I've gotten better every year for 8 years and missed out on podiums very, very often. And it was tough mentally, but I think the good thing is that, 2024 was a really great turning point for me. And I kind of feel like anything else is just icing on the cake. I mean, the only thing I don't have right now is a world outdoor medal. So it'd be nice to have that. And I guess that could be the next goal.
Yes.
But I don't know. I think I'm just enjoying it and hopefully riding this wave for as long as I can.
Yeah, well, here's my next question has actually to do with that. The World Championships in Budapest, you were just outside of medals. I mean, you're fifth. Did you feel this momentum coming? I mean, because as a former athlete myself, there are times when you're in a certain zone where you feel yourself getting better year after year,
Stronger,
season after
faster.
season, stronger, faster.
Mm-hmm.
Do you feel like 2024 was going to be the year when you broke through in the way in which you did?
I wasn't quite sure, but I think that I knew something was going to be different because mentally it wasn't like, oh, don't mess up during competitions. It was like, hey, do what you can do really, really well. You know, just execute the pieces you know how to execute very, very well. And I think once I stopped focusing on like what could go wrong and started just focusing on what I can control, meets were feeling a lot different. I only did 2 meets, I believe, before Indoor Worlds, and they were pretty good. Like I felt something special building.
Yeah, you
There
opened
was
with 1460, wasn't it?
yeah, behind the board. Yeah. So we knew
Wow.
something was brewing. But I was also just jumping free. Like there was no real hesitation. I figured out how to get on board when I need to get on board. So I didn't know how far I could go, but I knew that things were feeling really good and I was feeling really bouncy. And those 2 meets, there was no taper for, meaning that, you know, I was still lifting very, very heavy. I mean, the day before, I think I was like hitting like cleans for like 215 pounds or something.
Wow.
You know, my body was still going
Go
under
ahead
stress.
and embarrass me.
Yeah.
Just go ahead and embarrass me, Thea. Yeah.
I'm sorry.
It's fine.
So we knew something special was developing even in preseason. I was really fast. I was jumping really far. And my coach, my dear husband and coach, was getting really nitpicky. So I realized that, you know, he would end practices was like, you know, it looks great, but I still want this, this, and this. But when your practices are starting with it looks great all the time, it's like, oh, okay, we're doing something different this year.
Nice, nice. Not to spoil your mindset, Thea, not to spoil your vacation mindset, but when are you projected to you know, get active again, to begin training?
It's funny because it's actually kind of already started. Because I got the procedure done on my knee, I actually had to ensure that, you know, range of motion wasn't an issue. My range of motion in the knee is back.
Right,
Yay.
right.
But I've been biking already. I started upper body lifts already.
Okay.
So we've already kind of gave myself like a true month off.
Yeah.
And now we're slowly gearing back into stuff, and I should be like slowly but surely fully back by around Christmas.
Okay.
So that's the
Nice.
plan.
I won't ask you how much you're bench pressing because I don't want to be further embarrassed.
It's
Today.
okay. It's like only 95 pounds right now. It's okay. Don't worry about it.
All right.
Yeah, what I want to ask though, you know, at the Olympic Games, I mean, there were several countries who won their first Olympic gold: Botswana, Pakistan, and of course yourself and Julien Alfred. As a fellow Caribbean woman, and of course both countries within a very short distance of each other in the Eastern Caribbean, you formed a bond with Julien in a way which was very organic because you're both creating history for your respective countries. But on a personal level, how did that happen?
I think it really happened. Well, one, you know, within 24 hours, we both secured our first country's golds indoor season. So the last thing I saw before my last workout, before I competed in Glasgow, was Julien win gold in the 60. After that, our deepest conversation ended up happening at Prefontaine in Oregon, outdoor season. And we really just kind of talked about like how proud we were of each other, but also how kind of like crazy it is to experience such a high, but still have moments of like, you know, doubt or concern, or, you know, can we do this again? Can we bring this pride to the people again? You know, all eyes are on us now. Like, you know, can we two-peat? It's very rare. It's almost unheard of. I think I looked at the stats the other day, and I think it was only 5 athletes in athletics that repeated their win from indoor champs earlier this year at the Olympics. And knowing that, it's been so special. We really had a good conversation on just the power of believing in each other, and remembering that we are capable. Like this wasn't like a fluke. Like we worked hard for this, and I think that really kind of set the tone for our dynamic moving forward. And it's like, even if I didn't run into her at a meet, I was always cheering for her and vice versa. And how special it was to be, the ones making history for our country. I mean, it is such an honor. It's a privilege, and sometimes even some pressure with it. But I'm very proud of both of us for rising to the occasion, and putting our countries in the best way possible, and not in the selfish way ever on the map, which is pretty awesome.
You're now an ambassador for Dominica. What does that mean for you in terms of the leverage that you will now have as Olympic champion, world indoor champion, to perhaps start laying the groundwork for better things in Dominica, for the next wave of young athletes who want to emulate you, to come forward, to give them that opportunity to be like you, to be like a Julien Alfred? Did you have any of those discussions when you were back home, talking to the power brokers who would have been, avail themselves of you when you were there?
Absolutely, yes. Those conversations were definitely had. Even though I now am officially an ambassador, I think I've always viewed myself as an ambassador for the country in general. I take how people view me very seriously. When you come from a small country, you realize that a lot of people, their first time meeting a Dominican would be me, if they met me wherever I am. And so, first impressions count. But in all of this, I really always wanted to ensure that I was paving the way for the next generations of Dominican Olympians, no matter what their sport. And one of the big things I wanted to do was actually work on getting a track built in Dominica. Since my return, I have been promised that there will be one being built very soon. It'll be also named after me, which is really cool.
Oh, cool.
But in the meanwhile, we're actually even working on smaller initiatives, like building a field sports performance area in my mom's home village. Long term, I'd also like to do some, shoe donations for the young athletes that aren't able to, purchase their own on island. And the ambassador title, I think, if anything, just magnified my presence and magnified what my goals are for the next generation of elite athletes coming from Dominica. And I honestly, I really hope that I just wanted to help even the playing field, right? Just to give our young athletes the chance, the choice to even, dabble in track and field. And I really want that for them. So if anything I do even, cracks open a door of hope or possibility for the next generation, I am more than happy. But I am hoping to do more than just crack open the door.
Wow. Thea, such an inspiring story you have thus far, and you seem to smile in the face, you and your team, in the face of adversity. I have one tiny request. You have to do, coming off that speech, you have to do the "We Did It" T-shirts.
Oh my goodness.
Yes.
Okay. Okay. We'll work on that.
Yes, man.
For sure.
The accomplishments, when you look at what's happening or what's been happening in the Caribbean for the past few decades. I mean, we see tiny islands like Dominica, like St. Lucia, never done things like this before. What do you think is happening? I mean, track and field has fallen down the pecking order, unfortunately, in terms of some of the global appeal that it used to have. But in the face of that, we're seeing a lot of emerging talent from the Caribbean. I mean, there's a young lady called London, I'm trying to remember her first name now, from St. Lucia. And I'm sure there are youngsters in Dominica who are similarly gifted coming through. Why do you think track and field has such a powerful impact on the Caribbean population as opposed to other sports, maybe football or cricket or anything else? Why do you think that happens?
I think it's a few factors, especially in regards to the growth of track and field and the prowess of it in the Caribbean. I think the first thing is that we have to be visually honest that track and field does not take much when it comes to resources, correct? I mean, we look at Jamaica, right? Track and field powerhouse. And we see how many tracks there are all around the island. But there are also grass tracks, something more simple and less expensive than a proper track. A synthetic track. And the accessibility to that is very high. I think in the same realm of accessibility, we're now looking at, the access to resources for the rest of the Caribbean. We have athletes that can, go from their their island. Let's take Julien Alfred, for example, and then go to Jamaica to help develop. And then from there, then get the access and the resources to the NCAA system. We're now seeing our little islands get a taste of what it's like to have elite resources. And once you've done that, you've taken a child that has, amazing raw talent and giving them the place to grow and be nourished and, blossom into essentially a superstar.
Superhuman,
and I think that the Caribbean is flooded with athletes, with talent.
Yes.
I don't know if it's in the water, if it's in the soil, if it's, walking up and down hills all the time, no problem.
Combination,
but there's something really special in our lands, and I think it's just a matter of nurturing it, truly. If that wasn't the case, then we wouldn't see the long line of recruiters at every Carifta Games or Jamaican Nationals. But you know what I mean? Like, it's clear that we have something special. And you're right, the small islands are definitely showing out. We had, within 1 hour, Julien Alfred got her medal at Olympics. Shanika and I got our medal in triple jump. Lyndon Victor got his medal in the decathlon for Grenada. And so, it's really showing that, I don't want to sound biased, but, maybe the Caribbean is something very, very special. And we need to start, magnifying that and really investing in it and taking care of our athletes too, because I feel like there's so many more athletes that maybe never even lived up to their full potential because lack of accessibility, lack of resource, or even just not taking what they do seriously, right? I did see a lot of people not taking sports as a potential career and viewing it as more of a hobby, especially in the smaller islands. And I think that now people are opening their eyes and changing their minds on the topic.
Especially from a business perspective, because as you rightly said, a lot of people, especially positions of power and influence, still see track and field as recreation as opposed to being a business, which is what it actually is.
Indeed.
And maybe now with the success of yourself and Julien and others, that we're seeing now, maybe that there's a different approach that can be taken, a more business-like approach, that will produce more Thea LaFonds, that will become more ambassadors for Dominica and make the country even greater in terms of a track and field power.
Indeed.
All right. Well, Thea, thank you so much for joining us. We really appreciate the time and wishing you the best in 2025.
Yes.
Wanted to ask you a quick question about Shanika Ricketts and that bond. I realized that you crashed an interview with her. But we're out of time, so maybe another time we talk about that.
Yes,
but if you have 10 seconds, what's that like for you?
One, I totally sorry to Shanika for crashing that interview. I got way too excited. But I want to say how phenomenal it felt. Earlier that year, that's another heart-to-heart I had with someone, was with Shanika. And we talked about, just how sometimes we feel like, when is it our turn? On this big stage, especially coming to the Olympics, and you almost feel like, God, like, have you forgotten me? Have you forgotten little me that's been begging for just help? And if you watch us, not only in the interview, but when we got our medals, I was hugging and screaming at her like, he never abandoned you, he never forgot you. And it's just a moment of pride that I'm just so happy for the both of us, her and Carrie Lee Ricketts, husband and wife duo, near and dear to our hearts, since Aaron and I are husband and wife duo. But they were some of our first friends. I think they were our first friends in the professional circuit, and have always befriended us and always been there for us, and always made us feel welcome and checked in on us whenever we touched down in Jamaica. And just awesome friends, amazing people. And I got to give it to Shanika. Shanika is just so poised and so like genuine and so sweet and just a good person. And
Indeed.
Finding someone like that is so rare. Finding someone like that in your sport is even rarer. Finding someone like that as a friend is just a blessing. And so I am so grateful that we're able to share that podium together. I wish her all the best, and congratulations to Team Ricketts, because they did their thing. they did their thing, and what an amazing day it was for the Caribbean. I'm just so
absolutely amazing day indeed. And Thea, thank you so much for joining us. We're wishing you the best for 2025.
Indeed.
Hoping to see more medals coming from you for the Caribbean, and of course, because I've always felt that once somebody from the Caribbean finds success, it's
Breaks
success
through.
for all of us. And I think what you've done in this past season has been nothing short of phenomenal. So congratulations again. Congratulations to Aaron. Tell him hello for me, and of course, wishing you all the best for the season coming.
Thank you so much. One Caribbean, one love. I'm so grateful to be here today, and thank you for having me.
Peace out.
All
right, that was Thea LaFond. Lovely
Wow.
chat. And of course, she's an amazing human being and an amazing athlete.
Very inspiring.
Yeah, she's as it just tells you one of the things that I've always felt about athletes from the Caribbean, especially. Not saying it's unique to the Caribbean, but track and field athletes, a lot of them have had to carry a lot of burden and make a lot of sacrifice to get where they get to.
A lot of adversities.
So it just speaks to the strength of the athlete, the individual, to rise above the occasion.
And I think that translates in competition too. That's why we compete the way we do, because you have to overcome a lot of things. And during competition, it's the same. So you have that tough mentality, that grit that is needed for competition. So it's what Leighton, the Caribbean women, it's just a great thing to see,
Amazing.
Wow.
Amazing. And talking about amazing Caribbean women, last Thursday, Cheyenne Salmon and Rashawn Clark created a bit of history at the Diamond League meet in Zurich. Both won their respective races in the 400-meter hurdles. I don't think that's ever happened before.
No.
Salmon with a personal best of 52.97 seconds, making her the 5th Jamaican woman to break the 53-second barrier. While Clark ran a season's best 47.49 seconds to win the 400-meter hurdles for men in a quality field.
I see this as the new school making noise now, Leighton.
Yep.
The new school is announcing themselves and making noise now, yeah?
Yep, for real. 52. I spoke to Cheyenne afterwards, and because a lot of people don't know that she actually was training with Tanya Buford. I don't know if you're well, you
I remember that.
Tanya Buford. Back in '96 Olympics, she was third behind Dion Hemmings and of course Kim Button.
Yeah.
She coaches Gabby Thomas as well.
Yeah.
So Cheyenne was abroad for a few years after spending her first year at GC Foster in Spanish Town, St. Catherine. And she told me that she came back home because the American lifestyle, the American system was making her too soft.
Okay.
So she comes back
There
home
you go, yeah.
and she runs a raft of season bests during the course of the season.
Yeah.
Culminating with 53.13, which was a big PB at the Olympic Games, finishing 5th in the final.
Yeah.
And then now, a couple of weeks later,
time drops again.
Yeah, the time drops again. It's going to be very keen to see what she does, given what we've seen from her this season, the constant progression on Morris Wilson.
Exactly.
And of course, the confidence that would have come with that, leading up into what hopefully, barring she's injury free, going into the World Championship year next year, maybe we're seeing new PBs from her as well.
It's interesting that you said, she decided to leave the US and come back home, and join Coach Wilson. Leighton, I think a lot of athletes struggle with the environment. Sometimes you're in a camp that is doing well, overall. However, that might not be, the camp for you as an athlete. So it is very important that you choose a coach that can, take your potential to the next level.
Yeah, because look, there's a lot of adjustment to make. I mean, we've seen so many Jamaican athletes go abroad, and they go to college, and they do well in college, but once they make the transition into the pro ranks, it becomes a challenge because for several reasons. One, cultural differences. A lot of people dismiss these things and don't understand how important they are.
Exactly.
Cultural differences, the food, missing your family, missing your friends, the people who...
Players and people different.
Yeah, it has a significant impact on how you can function within a foreign environment. Because if you're not careful, you find yourself distracted for one. You lose focus because, we've heard so many times, for example, look at even, let's say, Tobogo from Botswana. How many times he said on the circuit that he misses his mother. It's a simple thing in the minds of many, but for the athlete itself,
it affects
him or herself, is a very serious thing. So, that she comes back home and then, continues to find this kind of continued success to the point where, because remember now, before last season, I think 53-7, I think, I'm trying to remember it, was where Shannon Salmon was in that 53 higher ranks.
Yeah.
She's come back home. She's gone on to 53-45.
Immediate progress.
And she came on to 53-1-8 at the national championship. I'm trying to remember. I don't remember the times, but you saw the constant progress.
Right.
And as she said to me, she felt the sub-52 coming because her body was getting comfortable.
Yeah, as you say.
At low 53
earlier.
lows. Yeah.
As an athlete, you can tell.
Yeah, you can feel it.
You can feel it coming, yeah.
So 52-97.
47 also for Rashan. 47-4.
Yeah, but 47-4 Rashan is not a PB, but
no,
it's
not a PB.
Best.
Yes.
So he's getting more comfortable running at that pace as well.
Oh yeah.
Who I'm sorry I haven't seen much of so far this season is Malik James King since the Olympics.
Since the Olympics, yes.
Because he's made a significant leap
Drop.
forward last season. He was 48-4 at the Jamaica Invitational.
Yeah.
And then 47-4, 42 at the Jamaican. And this is space of what? Just over a month. So that, it's significant to see that kind of a major that drop of more than a second, which is ridiculous.
He's one to really watch late, and I believe his upside, his ceiling is higher than everyone else, I believe, and he's the one to really watch for next season. I'm going to be keenly, watching his progress next season. I just hope he can stay healthy, and him and Coach Little can get it right.
Yeah, but what do you think of Rashawn's 47-49? I mean, how did he look to you?
Ever dangerous. Rashawn, we have to give, kudos to him and his team. Big up to his coach, you know what I'm saying? Yeah, man, and he's a competitor at heart. Since the days at Camperdown, you would see this kid, and he would always go out there and even beat his seniors in high school. So, really, really great competitor, and I think the 400 hurdles on both sides are in good hands.
Yeah, the first time I saw Rashawn was was it character trials or champs? When he won at champs.
About class 2?
Yeah, no, class 2, I think it was. And I always thought that there was something there about him that, because I'm trying to remember the guy from KC who was racing against that year as well, who got injured in the final.
Not sure.
But what I saw from him suggested to me that he was going to be doing something special. But the reality is that he's now delivering 47-4. 47-3 is the national record that he holds at 20 years old.
Yeah.
He's only beginning to learn the sport.
Exactly.
So it's good things.
Promising stuff.
Of course, so that we're out of time, unfortunately, and so that brings us to the end of our show for this week. We're at the end, but next week we'll be back with more out the blocks, and of course, hopefully, we'll have another interesting athlete who will be sharing their experiences with us.
Also, Big Diamond League action, finals
today,
action. Yes.
Today and tomorrow.
Yes.
So remember again to subscribe, comment, and share our content. Of course, last week there was a young man by the name of Simeon.
Oh, yes.
Who mentioned something about...
Simeon Christopher.
Yeah. Mentioned about Sidney McLaughlin not competing enough. And I agree with you. These big stars need to compete more because that's who the fans want to see. So big up for that comment. And of course, we completely agree with you on that because I think some of our biggest stars don't compete often enough. And I think that hurts the sport more than it helps it.
This is out the blocks, Leighton, but give me a quick take on Akira Nugent before we wrap.
Tomorrow, if she runs the way I think she will, I think she probably runs 12-1.
I believe.
So keeping our fingers crossed. Let's see.
Like, comment, share, people.
Yeah, bye-bye. Have a good week.
Time.
See you next week.
Out the blocks.